So now we are going to actually go and sharpen our pencil. So I'm going to get into a nice comfortable position and holding the pencil with my supporting hand, knife with my dominant hand. I'm going to place the edge of the knife roughly 1/2 inch back from the edge of my pencil. And I'm going to be using the thumb of my supporting hand to be pushing the knife and making the cut. I want to be at a slight angle with this, but not too much. If I'm at too much of an angle, then when I go to cut, I'm just going to end up scraping the top of the knife like such. If I'm not at enough of an angle, I'm just going to be cutting into the wood and it's not going to be very successful. So I want to be at roughly a 45-degree angle there. And when I go to make my cut, if I just try to straight push, I'm going to meet a lot of resistance and it's going to be a little bit more difficult. And so I actually want to get a little bit of a wiggle going on. And so I'm pushing and wiggling at the same time. And this is going to be an important technique, especially when I get down to just the lead, because if you're too rough with the lead, then you'll end up just cutting off the tip of your pencil every single time. And so we'll come back to that when we get to the lead. So now I've taken off a chunk of wood and I've exposed my lead on one side. So now I'm going to come to the other flat side. I like to start with the wider sides and then come up the narrower sides. You'll see different carpenters do it differently, and there's no right or wrong way. I've seen people come from the corners, which is a nice technique because actually there's less surface area, and so you'll have an easier cut just because you're cutting through less wood because it is at that angle. However, I like doing it this way, so this is the way we're going to do it for this video. So now I'm going to come to this side and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just a little wiggle to get it started and scrape it off. That time I didn't get all the way to the lead, so I just need to come and do it again. So now I have the lead exposed on both of my flatter sides, my wider sides, and now I'm going to come to these shorter sides, and once I have lead exposed on all sides, I can focus on my pencil tip. So for this, one important thing that I want to keep in mind is there's this tendency that I see with students first learning to sharpen their pencil that they want to come up with the knife as they are carving, and what happens is you end up scooping out at the middle of the lead, but then you end with this, like, you end up making like a little neck, and then you end up with still a fat tip, but just this really skinny little neck. So to avoid that, you want to try and stay in the same plane the entire time. And I'm just very lightly scraping so that I can bring my lead to a nice point without breaking it off. And I'm gonna start at one corner and I'm just gonna work my way around, and I'm gonna continue this until I have the desired thickness that I want. And as you can see, it's a very light motion, it's a very small motion. And the entire time, it's actually my thumb that is doing all of the work. So now I have a nice pointy pencil tip, and this is going to be what I am aiming for the remainder of my project. And if it starts to get dull, if I'm thinking about what I want to do next, if I'm trying to think about the design, if I'm just taking a look at what I've done, anytime I have some downtime, I want to get into the habit of sharpening my pencil. And the reason being is because over the course of a project, every step that you take within a project, whether it's on a large scale or a smaller scale, every step is the opportunity for error to occur. And by the end of your project, if you have 5 steps in your project, that is 5 times for error to occur. And the accumulation of that at the end is what we call accumulated error. And it starts with your pencil point. And so if you have a fat pencil tip and you're making really wide lines, and now it's a little bit ambiguous with where your measurement is and where your cut is going to be, it might only be the difference of like a 1/16 of an inch, which might not seem like a big deal. And in the grand scheme of things, a 1/16 of an inch in a large framing carpentry project, if you're framing a shed or a building, a 1/16 of an inch absolutely is not a big deal. However, where it is a big deal is if you are building a table and one of your legs is a 1/16 of an inch too short, and then your other leg is a 1/16 of an inch too long. And so now the difference between those two legs is actually 1/8 of an inch. And so it's the difference between your table standing flat or wobbling. So that is why it is important to have a very sharp pencil.